Kia ora koutou, my name is Vincent O'Malley and I'm a historian. I grew up in a big working class Irish Catholic household in Christchurch, ninth of 9 kids. At school I always loved history, it was my great passion. But my history teacher refused to teach us any New Zealand history, and I remembered asking him one day, I said, "Sir, why aren't we learning New Zealand history?" And he said, "Forget it, lad, it's boring, nothing happened here, move on." So when I enrolled at university at the age of 18 or 19, I took a whole bunch of European history courses. And it was only later on I decided to drop out of something else, and I was looking for a filler course, and I looked in the student magazine. New Zealand History 101 was in there as a good filler course, and I thought, well, it would be boring. After all, nothing happened here. My history teacher told me that, but I need to do something, so I did that, and I was blown away by it. And I said to myself, why didn't I learn this at school? This stuff is it's the opposite of boring. It's incredibly interesting, it's incredibly important and vital to who we are as a society. So once I had that first exposure, that was kind of me, I was away. Then a few years later, moving to Wellington to work in the Treaty of Waitangi claims sector. And one of the things about that I realised is that history was so important it needed to be shared with a wider audience. So that kind of set me on the path of writing and publishing about that history. I think one of the things I'm proudest of is playing a small role in pushing for New Zealand history to be taught in all schools. That's not a case of cherry picking out the bits we'd prefer to remember, but actually being big enough and mature enough as a society, as a nation, to say that we need to engage with our history in its totality, the good, the bad and the ugly. Really it was young people themselves who were leading the charge for that to happen. Over time, if that works well, then we may see that they begin to educate their parents and grandparents, a lot of whom didn't have access to this history, they weren't taught it at schools. Having that awareness of where you come from gives you a real grounding, a sense of belonging, and it equips you well as a society to step forward into the future. So I think we're on the right path, but there's still a lot to be done. And I sense, in the last 5 or 6 years, I think there's been huge interest in New Zealand history. With my big book, The Great War for New Zealand, published in 2016, and that's a 700-page book that weighs 2.5 kilograms, but it was also a bestseller, and a lot of people have told me that they, like me, they didn't learn any of this stuff at school, and they're just catching up as adults. So many of them come away with a real sense of just how important it is, and that they want their children and their grandchildren to learn this history in future, because it's vitally important for their sense of identity as to who they are, where they come from, and to help them work out where they're going next.